Welcome to UC Collaboration, a global name in unified communication, formerly Voice Bootcamp. Hi, my name is Faisal Khan, CEO and founder of UC Collaboration and Voice Bootcamp. In this CCIE Collaboration and CCNP Voice Foundation kit, we're going to talk about the Gatekeeper. Gatekeeper is an H323 device component that is designed to provide a centralized management for all the H323 gateways. A gateway that has to register to Gatekeeper before they can use the Gatekeeper to route a call. Each gateway may advertise all the prefixes it can serve, such as the phone numbers that is attached to it. Gatekeeper use tech prefix, zone prefix, and alias to route a call. Gateway use Gatekeeper for centralized dial plan, call admission control, and bandwidth control. Now, before a Gatekeeper can be used, the gateway has to register to the Gatekeeper by sending RRQ message, registration request query, where it will advertise his name and the phone numbers or extensions that is registered to. As the gateway registers, and if the Gatekeeper accepts the registration, the Gatekeeper will respond by saying RCF, registration confirm. Now, Gatekeeper, as a gateway register, Gatekeeper builds a dynamic table. It builds a table with a gateway name, the prefix it can serve, and the IP address of the gateway. So in this scenario, gateway A has a call for area code 416-839-1717. Gatekeeper receives an ARQ message and then check the phone number the user is trying to dial against the table. The closest match to that is 416 number. So the Gatekeeper will advertise the gateway A, please contact this IP address, because that's the IP address is available in the table. So what the Gatekeeper really does, advise the originating device which terminating device to communicate with. So in that case, the H323 gateway will initiate direct communication with, the gateway A will initiate a direct communication with gateway B. Now, Gatekeeper use various terms to configure it. Zone, which is a collection of gateways working together. You can create a different zone with the different gateways. There are two types of zones you have, local zone and a remote zone. Local zone configured locally on the Gatekeeper, which is managed by the Gatekeeper itself. Remote zone happens to be a local zone of another Gatekeeper, but to you that is a remote zone. A gateway can only register to local zone. Gateway cannot register to remote zone directly. Zone prefix is like a static routing. If you, for example, in routing world, if you type IP route statement, zone prefix is similar to that. Tag prefix is a way to decide which gateway to use based on certain numbers. So what we do, we use unique digit to associate with each gateway. When the Gatekeeper receives a call with that digit, it will select the appropriate gateway. Default tag prefix is like a gateway of last resort. In a routing switching world, you have a gateway default network, while default tech prefix does exactly the same thing. So here's a scenario. I have two sites registered to the Gatekeeper. I have San Francisco and Toronto. Both registered the Gatekeeper with two local zones, SFO and Toronto. And then I have zone prefix configured with 1416 for Toronto, zone prefix configured as 1408 for SFO. In the Gatekeeper, I have designated one hash as a default tag prefix, and I am forcing both gateway to register with the same tag prefix of one hash. So the Gatekeeper now knows that I have two devices to send the calls to for one hash. So let's see what happened. A San Francisco user wants to call the Toronto user. They dial this number, 14163133001. The call comes in. The Gatekeeper looks at the number and asks the question, does the technology prefix match? In this case, the technology prefix is one hash, but the one hash is not part of the number. So therefore, the match does not occur. Zone prefix match. Well, the Gatekeeper moves to the next step. If the tech prefix doesn't match, zone prefix looks at, the Gatekeeper looks at the zone prefix. So what it does is start analyzing the number from left to right. And it says, okay, does 1416 match any of my zone prefix? Well, it does. This zone right here. Then it says, is the target zone Toronto? Well, it is, because that particular zone prefix is associated with the local zone called Toronto. Is it a local? Yes, it is, because we defined it as a local zone. Now, is the area code the phone number 14163133001, is it registered directly to the gatekeeper? In this scenario, no. The phones are not registered directly to the gatekeeper. Default technology was not found in step number 2, so this step will be no as well. Then it's going to say, okay, does the default tag prefix configured? Well, the router gatekeeper has a default tag prefix. So because of the default tag prefix, the gatekeeper is going to choose the Toronto gateway. So the question comes in, why Toronto? Why not San Francisco? The reason why it chose both gateway using the same tag prefix 1 pound or 1 hash, the reason why it chose Toronto because of the zone prefix. So zone prefix, when two gateway using the same tag prefix, zone prefix is used to decide the direction of the call. In next scenario, I do not have default technology prefix configured, but the user is sending me the 1 hash with the number this time. So first step, does the technology prefix match? Yes, it does. Is this hop-off prefix configured? Hop-off prefix is like a special configuration where you can tell the gatekeeper that if you see this tag prefix, send it to this gateway. If you see this tag prefix, send it to that gateway. So it's like a more policy-based routing. Now, since hop-off is not configured, then it's going to match the zone prefix. Well, it does match the zone prefix because after tag prefix 1 hash, zone prefix will be matching 1416. Is a zone Toronto? Yes, because 1416 is configured in Toronto. Is the Toronto local? Yes, it is a local zone. Is the number registered? Not at this moment. Was the technology found in step number 1? Yes, it was. Sorry, step number 2. Then it's going to choose the Toronto gateway. Again, the reason why it chose the Toronto gateway, even though San Francisco is using the same tag prefix, because of the zone prefix direction. So zone prefix will always use to decide which direction the call will go to. Now the last step where the number is actually registered. So call came in without any tag prefix and no default technology prefix is configured. Tag prefix not found. Zone prefix found, yes. Target zone is Toronto. Toronto is local. Number is registered, yes. And therefore the call goes to that site right away. Now, in order to configure Gatekeeper, Gatekeeper configuration is very straightforward. It defines a local zone, typing the Gatekeeper, then go to local zone, pod Y, voice bootcamp, and the IP address of the Gatekeeper. To configure remote zone, you say zone, remote, zone name of the remote Gatekeeper, domain name, and an IP address of that router. To configure local prefix, you can say zone prefix pod Y2 ... So any number that starts with 2 should go to this particular zone, pod Y, with the GW priority CM underscore trunk 1 and underscore trunk 2. So the trunk underscore 1 is your publisher or subscriber, depending on who's active. So I'm going to go ahead and configure this on my router. So I will configure Gatekeeper on site HQ site. On HQ, I'm going to define a zone local. I'm going to call this pod 6 voicebootcamp.com. Sorry, 64 254 is the IP address. No shut is required. Zone prefix pod 6 2 ... GW priority 10 CM underscore trunk underscore 1. Zone prefix pod 6 2 ... GW priority 9, the secondary option gateway call manager trunk underscore 9 1. Sorry, 2. So I gotta remove this command. Okay, so if I were to look at my Gatekeeper config, it will look something like this. Very simple. Oh, it took the first one out. Now to register site C as my gateway, so I'm going to go to that particular router, and then under the loopback interface I'm going to enable VoIP interface, choose a name for that site, and then define which gatekeeper to join and what zone name, and what tech prefix should I register with. To initialize and reinitialize, I will say no gateway and gateway, and then I must create a dial pair on site C to send calls to the call manager site. So I'm going to say the number that match 2 dot 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 or 3 dot 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 session target call manager, or the gatekeeper. And call manager is expecting a tech prefix of 2 hash. So I'll go configure this on site C. It's already applied because of our previous command. So I'm going to say H33ID site C, define the gatekeeper name pod 6, and that's the IP address of my HQ gatekeeper. If I loop tech prefix 1 hash, and then I type no gateway and gateway. So it says that the gateway site C is registered with the gatekeeper. If I type show gateway, it will tell me that this is registered to the pod 6. If I go to HQ, type show gatekeeper endpoint, I should see my site C router, and it registers all the extensions that it can reach, which is the Call Manager Express. Now that is the site C register as a HTTP gateway. Now the Call Manager part, we gotta go to device menu, gatekeeper. We're gonna add a gatekeeper, so I'm gonna change this to 6. That's the IP address of HQ gatekeeper. Save this. Okay, I must delete it and recreate it. So I'm going to say 142.664.254. That is the IP address of your HQ router gatekeeper. And then I must go to device trunk. I'll add a new trunk. Trunk type will be H225. Next, I'm going to call this CM_trunk. Remember the name we defined right here. All the configuration that we've done, CCM_trunk. We'll just simply define up to CM_trunk. The system will add 1 and 2. Go down until you see right here. Gatekeeper, gateway, 2 hash, and pod 6. So gatekeeper call manager is going to register with 2 hash, 2 pound, while the site C will register with 1 hash or 1 pound, right there. Okay, reset the trunk. If I go to site HQ and if I type show gatekeeper endpoint, I should see both of my call manager trunk 1 and trunk 2 registered. So as you can see, that both gateway is registered. So to quickly test a call, I must register a phone to site C. So let me see if I can open up an IP communicator. Let's see if that will work. If not, then I will change the IP communicator with that IP address 106.66.254. Okay, so I got one phone registered to site C 5002 and one registered to call manager, and I'm going to establish a call from my HQ to from site C to HQ first, and I'm going to enable debug gatekeeper main 10 on the router to see if the call passes through the router or not. So from site C to HQ, so let's dial 2004. Call did not go through, so we have to look at our dial pair on site C to see if there is a dial pair for that particular pattern. So right now we don't have any dial pair for matching sending calls via the gatekeeper to the site HQ site. So we must create a dial pair. Session target is RAS. Destination pattern two three dot dot dot. The reason 2 because site C HQ is 2000 series, site B is 3000 series. Tag prefix will be 2 hash. So if I look at my dial pair that I just created, it'll look something like this. So if the call starts with 2 or 3 followed by 3 more digit, send the calls to the gatekeeper and include £2 as a part of the call. So I'll try again. Is ring out, but the call still did not succeed. So if I look at my debug, you'll see it's a little hard to see right now, but let me see. See, it says £2 2004. So it did found the gatekeeper tag prefix, but for some reason it was not able to complete the call. And one of the reasons behind that is if you look at your gate trunk, your extension 2004 is really starting with 2004. So how do you remove that 2 hash? Because 2 hash is coming to call manager, and call manager does not know what to do with it. So in the trunk that we just created right here, there is a little section right here called significant digit. We're going to set this value to 4. That means in that particular number that is coming in, so let me reset this first. In that particular number that is coming in, 2 hash 2004, if I take the last 4 digit, is going to be 2004 only. So basically 2 hash will be dropped. So hopefully that will work. So let's give it a shot. And as you can see, the phone is ringing via the gatekeeper. So I'm going to answer the call. Tap on the gatekeeper, I'm going to type show gatekeeper call. I should see the call passing through the gatekeeper. Now for me to send the call opposite direction from the call manager to the site C, I have to create a route pattern which is similar to dial pair in call manager. Let's say 5xxx. Send the call to the gatekeeper, which is trunk, and then we're gonna make sure we send the 1 hash in the prefix digit for call party, not the calling party. Call party prefix digit 1 hash. So we include 1 hash to the dial number. Alright, so now what we're gonna do, we're gonna again enable the debugging. Now while we enable the debugging on the gatekeeper, we're also going to enable debugging on site C, just to see if the call is even hitting the site C or not. So this time I'm going to dial from HQ 5002. So it's trying to dial 1 hash 5002. I'm getting a message saying your call cannot be completed. I can see the gatekeeper received the dial number as a 1#5002. Let's see if the site C received it. Site C also received some signals, so we don't know what it is. So if I analyze the signal, site C is receiving 1#5002, but it does not know what to do with 1# because my extension starts with 5. So using a very simple translation, I'm going to say num expansion. I'm going to remove the 1#, 5 ... convert it to 5 ... By just typing that command, if I just redial, voila, the call goes through. Okay, so it is very important that whenever you use a gatekeeper, that the either side, if they're going to use tech prefix, it is up to you to remove the tech prefix on the gateway level, and the gatekeeper does not do any digit manipulation. So this is basically what you need to do to enable gatekeeper functionality within your organization. So these are some of the show commands in troubleshooting. Like I said, we will use this command in our troubleshooting DVD. For now, this is something that you may want to use to troubleshoot and learn how to do it yourself. To add a gatekeeper and call manager, go to device menu, go to gatekeeper, enter the IP address of the gatekeeper, then create a H225 trunk pointing to the zone. You're going to choose the device name CM_trunk. You can choose any name you want, really. And the gatekeeper section, choose the gatekeeper technology prefix 2#. Remember, whatever the technology prefix you select here, the opposite side have to include this number into their dial plan. And then your call manager has to remove the 2# so that you know how to extract. You only take the last 4 digits of your extension. You can type show gatekeeper endpoint to verify the gatekeeper settings. And there are various debug commands. Like I said, these are the one of the debug commands I have just used, debug gatekeeper main 10. Now this pretty much conclude the gatekeeper lab. The gatekeeper is a centralized device to manage H323 gateway. Zone must be configured to enable gatekeeper. Gateway can register to one gatekeeper at a time. Of course, you can have redundancy, but gatekeeper keeps a dynamic table of your dial plan. So this is pretty much this is going to be it for this particular chapter, and I will see you in the next one.